MacMaths, let's do some maths today. Statistics. Okay, so welcome to my popular series on of MacMaths, on AS MacMaths, and I'm actually going to go through the statistics course now. So this is the start of the statistics course, and I stick that over there. And I'm a bit sort of tight in my chest because I'm anxious about this, because I've never taught statistics before. I know some of you have been struggling with it, so that's why I've agreed to do it over the summer holidays. I've been a little bit lazy. It's got 3 weeks in and I haven't even posted any of them. So, but I have been looking at it over the last week. I've gone through the chapters on statistics and I get it all and I can do it all, but I've never taught it before. And so when you've not taught something, it's one thing being able to do it, it's another thing being able to teach it. Whereas with mechanics at the core, you know, I've had 25 years experience of teaching that. Okay, so I'm going to do it slowly. I'm just going to go through it in short lessons, and I'm going to have to do each little bit at a time, and it's going to feel a little bit disjointed, so I do apologise for that. But it's an honest attempt at explaining it to you, and if you're sort of like my style, then hopefully it will suit you and you will pick something up. But you have to bear with me when I sound like a blithering idiot, because like I say, I'm just blagging my way through it a little bit, but I do get it and I can do all the questions, and I've got some slightly different methods than the ones it uses in the book. Okay, but let's make a start. Okay, and I'll go through it sort of chapter by chapter. I've put lesson 1A, but I'll do that. I think I've learned how to splice little bits together, so I'll do a 1B and go through each sort of section at a time and so on. So you might just want to watch these little bits. So there you go, that's my introduction. And even the introduction, I was just waffling on really, so I am nervous. Okay, so there we go. Right, here we go. So the first one then talks about populations and samples, and it talks about two words, which is a census, and another word which you all know is a sample. Census, you might be familiar with that word when we talk about a census that happens in the country every 10 years to find out what the population is and what the population is doing and so on, and lifestyles. And a census means all people or all parties, so using everything. And a sample, of course, is using some. Okay. And then there are, it goes through the book, it goes through advantages and advantages and disadvantages. So let's just talk about those very quickly. Disadvantages. Okay. Census then. So advantages of using a census. So that means that let's take a couple of examples. Let's take a school, and let's take a light bulb factory. Factory that makes light bulbs. There you go. Okay, in fact, does that even fit on the screen? Yeah, or it may not do actually. Hang on a minute, let me just rub that out. School definitely fits on a light bulb factory. Just making this up as I go along. Okay, so those are my two things here that I'm going to talk about. Right, a census. So say you're doing a survey on what students think of your school uniform, okay, and that is a school. So if you talk about a census, you would ask everyone. So what's the advantage of asking everyone, within the school? Okay, so an advantage of that is you get a complete view, a complete sort of view, and the word there is accurate, isn't it? Yeah, you get an accurate opinion because you've asked absolutely everyone. So that's the advantage of a census. It's perfectly accurate. Okay, you've asked everyone. Okay. The disadvantages of a census, of course, then, is that would, if you did that and you asked everyone, there was a school of 1,000, it takes time. Okay, so in the exam, you'd say that would be time consuming as a disadvantage, wouldn't you? It's time consuming. Okay. A light bulb. Take the light bulb factory. So say you make light bulbs and you want to claim how long those light bulbs last, then you've got to put them on and see how long they last before they blow. So if you use all of your light bulbs for that, then, okay, so if you use all your light bulbs, you get an accurate picture of how long those light bulbs last. But if a disadvantage of that, if you use every single light bulb until it blows, then you've got no light bulbs left. So therefore, a disadvantage is it can be, as well as time consuming, expensive, can't it? Okay, because to get that information for how long a light bulb lasts, it actually destroys the sample, it destroys the units that you're using, so it can be expensive. Okay. So if you use a sample, okay, rather than everyone, a sample, the advantages are it's quicker, okay, easier, isn't it? You're not to organise because you've only got a few, so it's quicker and easier, and of course if you're using light bulbs, it's less expensive, isn't it? You're only using, I don't know, 30 light bulbs. If the factory makes in a week 10,000 light bulbs, and you're going to use that as a census to see how long they last. But if you just use a sample of 30 of them, then you're only damaging 30 of them, so it's much less expensive. Less expensive than a census using everyone. It's quicker and easier. The disadvantages, of course, it is a sample, so it's not necessarily accurate. So there's an accuracy, isn't there? And you see that, don't you, in the elections? When they're doing the elections, they do an opinion poll, and they ask 1,000 people, who they're going to vote for, Labour, Conservative, Green Party, or whatever. And it's not always. It doesn't always come true, does it? Because it was, it just shows that sample wasn't accurate because it was only 1,000 people, whereas, there's 30 million people that are actually voting. So if you take a sample, disadvantages is that it's not as accurate. Okay. But there's it's quicker, it's less expensive. There's less data to sort of deal with and so on. Just looking at the book. But you can read that sort of in the book, can't you, anyway? Okay, so there we go. We've sort of covered what a census is, everyone, covered what a sample is. More sensible, isn't it, in most cases, to take a sample of students or a sample of light bulbs and things and so on to work out what's going on. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll just I'll just go through a couple of questions with you. Question 4, so really sort of obviously just looking at those disadvantages and advantages. Sort of question 4, this is in exercise 1A. It says, and there it is, a manufacturer of micro switches, little switches that you switch on and off, is testing the reliability, and it uses a special machine that just switches them on and off until they break. So obviously every time they test one switch, it costs, it's one switch that the manufacturer cannot then sell. It breaks it. So you can't use a census to find out how long they last, because if you used all your switches, you've just broken your whole stock. Okay, so it says give one reason why the manufacturer use a sample rather than a census. So A, because it would testing, so breaks the switch. So it's too expensive, isn't it? It's too expensive to use a census. Okay, that's why you wouldn't use a census in them. The company uses 10 switches and obtains the following results. And you can see these, it only gives you 5 of them, oddly. I think it's meant to say a company test is 5, a sample of 5 switches, it should say, shouldn't it? And it gives you these 3 numbers, 23,150. That means that one of the switches, they switched it on and off 23,150 times and then it broke. Another one, 25071, another one, 19480, and I don't know where that's going to go off your screen. Another one, 2921, another one, 7455. So 5 switches, okay, and they lasted that many times before they broke. It says that the company, it says the company claims that their switches last about 20,000 times without breaking, okay, and you've got a comment on that. Well, 20,000 times without breaking. If you add those 5, it says on average there, so if you add those 5 numbers up and divide by 5, the average, which would be the mean, now I can see from there, you've got this outlier, haven't you? That, so when you add those 5 numbers up, that is going to pull the average down. So the mean is going to be less than 20,000, which means the claim is wrong, okay? If you use the mean. So what you could say, if you put them in order and found the median though, you can see that that's the smallest is the 7,001. The next one is the 19,000. Let's just forget the thousands and the bits and pieces. So we've got 7,000, 19,000, 22,000, 23,000 and 25,000. Okay, so those are the 5 numbers in order, and you can see that the median number is the middle, so that's, and the median is an average, and that then supports the claim that on average they last 20,000 times because it's over that average. So your answer to that one is use the sample data above to comment on this claim. You're okay to use that as a claim, aren't you? Okay, that the average lasts more than 20,000 times if that claim you're using that average is a median. And last one, of course, suggest one way that the company could improve its prediction. Well, you can improve your prediction, can't you, by taking 5 or taking 10 is not very many. If you take 30, it's going to be a lot more accurate, isn't it? Okay, so increase the amount. Part C, that was part B, wasn't it? And part C, increase sample size. Okay, so that's question 4. Question 5, it talks about a manager of a garage wants to know what their mechanics think about the pension scheme he's designed for them. The manager decides to ask all the mechanics in the garage. Describe the population the manager will use. Well, he's using the Census, isn't he? Because he's using all of them. And he can do that because, how big's a garage? You can't be that big, can't have that many people, so you might as well do a census. Write down the main advantage in asking all of the mechanics. Well, if you do a census, it's the advantage of a census, isn't it? You get everybody's opinion, so you've got a full view really of what everyone thinks of the pension. So it's the most accurate thing you can do to get an opinion. Okay, all right, thank you, hope that's okay.